Welcome to the Teachers Pep Rally and to 2023. If you missed our last episode, we had our annual holiday party, gifts, laughs, and a few of our favorite things with our special guest, Crystal Steers. Our guest tonight is an author, speaker, and human design practitioner. As the worth coach, she aims to help Black women transform their worth by helping them learn, heal, evolve, and expand their worth. She has a book titled Things My Parents Didn't Tell Me About Money and Life Because They Didn't Know, and a 90-day action planner titled What's on Your Plate. Get ready to look at finances with a new lens. Please welcome to the Teachers Pep Rally, Jasmine Hall, the worth coach.
Yay! Woohoo!
I feel like we should have had like a ching, 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 like some kind of like.
We'll add it in.
There you go.
Okay, we'll add it in. Great. Welcome, Jasmine.
Hi, everyone. I'm so excited to be here. I love I'm a big person about energy, and I love the energy. I love the vibe. So I'm excited.
Well, get comfortable, pull up a bleacher, as we like to say. And to get us started, Letitia, you want to tell our guests a little bit about the happy happenings we started?
Absolutely. So, Jasmine, here at the Teachers Pep Rally, we started doing something this season called Happy Happenings. And it's just an opportunity for us to go around the table, quotes, and just share the positive things that have happened for us during the week, something even that made us laugh, smile, or even some gratitude. And so we just go around the table. This is our way of just putting love, happiness, and positivity into the atmosphere. So we will go round robin. It's a new year.
Me?
Oh, yeah. Aaron, yes.
So I have to say,
it's a new year.
It is a new year. It is a new year. I have to say, I'm very blessed to sit here and think I have a lot of happy happenings. So I'm going to first put that out there. But the thing that came to me at the top was that over break, my niece and nephew taught me how to play a new game. Now, it's not news, and I think it's been out there for a while, but it's new to me, and it's called Sequence. Have any of you played this yet?
No.
Oh, I can't wait to invite you over, or Fred will pull you into Zoom and play it. I just absolutely love it. It's a card game, but you have a mat and there's chips, like poker chips. There's no gambling, but it's just, it's such a great game. I can't wait to teach you. I love games, but I'm excited to keep playing this new game that I have found.
I love that you have family time. Yes. And Jazz, I remember you mentioning that one time with your own children. So I love that. I love that. Pete, what you got for the new year?
Yeah, I'm gonna go back a few weeks. Had this in my back pocket. My school chorus. We were scheduled to do a concert. That was the window that we had to fill. The time frame to give all the other teachers planning and all was longer than the amount of material that we had prepared. So I had to think, what do we do? What do we do? What do we do? And in a past life, I was a singer. So I put on my big boy pants and I sang for the first time ever in front of my school. And I did it a couple times at these concerts because we had to fill up this time. I don't ever do that. I don't like music teachers that do that. It's about the kids. I don't ever want to be in front or take the spotlight away from them. This was a necessity. But today we had a professional learning day. And my colleague music teachers came up. Oh, I heard you sang at your school concert. I heard. I'm like, oh my gosh, geez. So you got to sing for us. I'm like, no, we're good. So it was a nice feeling. I miss it, and maybe I'll get back into it this year. So that was really cool to sing for my students.
And in full disclosure, Pete has an amazing voice, everybody.
Awesome.
So yeah. I think that's
long time ago. But thank you. Yeah, so that's what I wanted to share.
I feel like that could be a happy happening for me to hear you sing, Pete.
Oh, geez. Oh, sorry about that.
Bring me back when you do.
Need to.
Yeah.
Can you record it and let me listen?
He's got to do his gargling exercises and all that, Letitia. We'll play
Not about me. Not about me.
Oh, no, I need this because I feel like you guys have heard it and I have not had the privilege. So, yeah, buddy, that's my
I'll take care
bucket list.
of you. Okay.
That's awesome. That's awesome. Change it up a little bit. Jazz, what you got for us?
So I am blessed and grateful that someone that I met a couple years ago in a coaching program that I was involved in reached out to me and wanted my experience from leaving teaching. She's actually an educator as well, and she actually lives all the way in California. We've never met.
Wow.
She reached out. She's actually reached out to me a couple of times, but our schedules was conflicting, and just actually having just that conversation with her really touched my heart. And just even hearing how she was grateful for just me being authentic and transparent on my experience was really life-changing, inspiring. And because I like to look at myself as a resource, and I just love being in position and in place to do that for others.
Nice. That's nice.
That's awesome. And I have experienced that firsthand. I want to point everyone in the direction, teachers out there that are trying to launch businesses, please go listen to our episode, Pursuing Your Passion Beyond the Classroom with Angela Tesno. I think I'm saying
Tesno,
it right.
yep.
Tesno. She gave such great nuggets. So I want to encourage our listeners. Thank you, Jazz, for sharing, because you certainly are a blessing. I know you have been to me. So thank you for sharing that. Fred, what you got, bud?
I think this is a tough one only because we're coming off the heels of the holiday, and we had such a great holiday episode together, and then I can't remember really anything after that other than it was just this blur of decorating and trains in my house and family coming in and losing power and -5 degrees, and it was all this stuff, but it was just a moment. I think the happy happenings is just the fact that we had so many great opportunities to just be together. Mm-hmm. And the power outage that we had was an interesting one because, you've all experienced power outages. It makes you look at things much differently. And we had about 18 people here in our home that night when we lost the power. And, you got kids and you got people and you're trying to figure out lighting, but it was just nice to see kind of everybody hanging out. Playing games, Aaron. We were big board games, and it was fun. That was my happy to happen. And the best part of it was under our roof here at my home. So it's nice when you could provide that opportunity for everybody to gather. And then, of course, once it's over, they go off in their 4 directions and do their own thing for the rest of the holidays. But the holidays was my happy happening. I think it was just a lot of fun, and I'm ready to begin the spring term. We're ready to go. So it's going to be good. Yeah. Yes.
I love that, Fred. And thank you for sharing the part about having a home that can accommodate 18 people. As we move forward in our episode tonight, we're going to be talking about finances. And for me personally, guys, that's really where the wealth is at. That's where it's at, right? For me to be in a position to bring in 18 people to my home and just be a host and just share the blessings with other people. So I am excited that was your experience. So guys, for me, I wanted to wrap up the year with some self-care. Of course, my secret Santa, AKA Pete, gave me some lovely gifts to help spark that. So I had a spa day.
Good.
And so I spent some time at the spa, just working all that stuff out, or at least my masseuse did. I purged my home office. I switched things around. I donated. And then I was super happy to see that this year or last year, I read 22 books, guys. No, 26 books.
What?
Last year. Yes. And I ended
impressive.
with the year of yes. So if anyone wants to start their year off, Shonda Rhimes does an amazing job. So that is kind of like my happy happening. Super excited that I was able to end the year that way. Thank you guys so much for sharing. I want to encourage our listeners to pick up the practice. It actually does send happy hormones through your body and help depression and anxiety. So we're so purposeful here at the Teachers Pep Rally. Aaron, take it away. Let's get the party started.
I'm ready. And Jasmine kind of hinted at it a little bit. So you recently made a leap, right? Out of being a high school economics teacher into full entrepreneurship. So as we start to dive deeper into this conversation, how have your students been a big part of this journey? Can you share a little bit of their inspiration, especially making that leap from the classroom to this?
Yes. My students were the ones that kept me there alongside of my coworkers. But I remember, I want to say class of 2018, because I taught seniors. I share with my students, we do an icebreaker every, at the beginning of the year. And I remember driving to work and I said, I want to make something so big that I don't even know how I will accomplish it. And so that year I, had the same icebreaker that I always had, but I put that I wanted to become a multimillionaire by the time I was 40. And that year, and I think I said something about motivation speaking, but that year my students, they started to see nuggets in me that I didn't see in myself. They would share with me that, Miss Hall, I could see you becoming a motivational speaker. Miss Hall, you should write that book. Miss Hall, I know you're going to be a multimillionaire. And then they would even tell me, you're not going to become a millionaire working here. So, and each year they would say, are you going to leave with us? And I was like, I don't know. But this past year, I want to say 2021 was really that year that my foot was halfway out. And I said, you know what, if I don't do it now, I'm never going to do it. And so even this year, my students were like, we're graduating together. And I told them, and ironically, so this was my last school year, 2022. I graduated class of 2002. And so 20 years later, I, left my pursuit of education. So this really was a monumental year. And like I said, my students have always poured into me because I pour back into them. And I'm excited and they're excited for me. And they keep telling me, even through, Instagram, Miss Hall, I know you're going to do great things. And I tell them the same. You're going to do great things as well.
That's nice. That's really nice.
I'm so teary-eyed here because, we just, sometimes I think we don't catch our breath long enough, right? Because of the busyness of our work, right? Of leaning into the work. That we don't realize, I think sometimes, that they have so much to give us, they being our students, right? They have so much to give us. And educator after educator, guys, that we bring to TPR that gives students choice, and it's this relationship and community. Beautiful things happen when we just give them the opportunity to own their education, own that space. And I mean, they're amazing.
They are.
They're amazing.
I'm going to miss it. I do miss it now. But yeah, I love that.
I can tell with you that once you're a teacher, you're always a teacher. Like that's what I always tell my students. You'll always have that. So it's beautiful. And at some point I'll listen more about how you would teach economics, because it's the one class that I had the most difficult time getting through. It just was so dry, but I can already tell just by you saying you'd come in with an icebreaker and do this. I'm like, oh, I would have loved.
I love to make it fun. And, I actually, not to sway off the thing, I actually got into economics just because I had a degree in special education. So that wasn't even my certification. But I had the opportunity because I taught, special education. I did an IRR class. When my co-teacher moved up in her position, I said, you know what, I want that position. And I love it. I loved economics. I ate, breathe, all economics. So it became like my second passion.
Well, so then you're the perfect person then to be talking about this, is that we don't talk too much about our relationship with money, right? And
absolutely.
It sound like Letitia, she's the perfect person to actually be making us aware of what our relationship is with money or should be with money. So can you maybe give us some insight on what shapes our relationship and worth regarding money?
So I'm glad you brought that up, because when I also became an economics teacher, at first I didn't believe I was in a position to teach somebody about finances because of my own background. And that's what I did in my, shared in my book. I went and I shared this with my students, especially when we would talk about inflation and a recession. But I'll come back to that. Remind me to talk about that because I don't want to get off topic. But what I realized with our relationship with money oftentimes is a reflection of how we feel about ourselves. And now I will talk about that because I was at a point in 2008 during the last recession where, I was on my pursuit of becoming a teacher. I have always wanted to be a teacher since I was a little girl, played school with my dolls and all that. And I loved it. I used to spend my own money on go to the teacher store and buy teaching stuff so I could teach my friends. Oh, and so I'm a nerd and I'm proud of it. So, but I found myself after doing Teach for America. At the time I had a 2-year-old daughter, and I finally got that opportunity to teach, and I had to take the Praxis exam before I could get into the program. Well, I got accepted and before I could continue teaching. And I had to take the math portion 3 times, and I missed it by 3 points, 2 to 3 points every time. And because I missed it, I could not teach. And that was the onset of the recession. And to spare y'all the details, I was unemployed for 3 years. And I almost gave up on my dream of teaching. But I say all that to say, during that time, I lost everything. I had to move in with my mom. At the time, my daughter was 2. I ended up getting pregnant with my son. So I felt like, why me? Why was I going through all this? I did everything right. I went to college, graduated high school, went to college. Why me? And I believe God works in mysterious ways. And that experience positioned me not only to be grateful for what I learned, but positioned me to learn more about economics and finances, as well as teach people about finances, because I was at my lowest point in my life. Like I said, I lost everything. And I learned a lot about my credit score, how to build that back up and everything. But at the end of the day, I feel like our relationship with money is a direct relation of ourselves, and a lot of times the values of how we were raised, and that's, again, going back to this book. My parents couldn't tell me certain things about money because they didn't know. They're from a different generation where they were taught to work hard, go to school, not really go to school, but get a good job and save money and retire and live off Social Security. That looks different from us from today. And so there's been times where I've taught my parents stuff about finances. And so, but, I remember my dad, and I get it, because that was his mindset when I would want to go buy things. He was, money doesn't grow on trees. Right. It doesn't hurt. It doesn't cost to look, and all those things. And so I found myself kind of being tight with my money. And I had to have people pour back into me to really see, Jasmine, you don't have to have a scarcity mindset to live. Like, you have a life, you can still do the things that you want and desire. It's just going to take some work. But once I let go of that scarcity mindset, things fell into place, as they should. And so once we leave, we check our mindset, that's when things opens up. And that's what I feel like the relationship with money and worth, it starts with our mindset. And like I said, it comes from our values and how we were raised and how we feel about ourselves.
And first off, I want to just commend your courage to be vulnerable and so transparent. And this is part of the reason why I just felt that you were such an important voice right now. particularly when, we're all educators. We always hear about money, right? They don't pay us enough, which is absolutely the truth.
Yes.
But I also know that there are deeper underrooted things around money, because my grandmother had no education. She came from Puerto Rico, had no education, and I could never understand how people would either borrow money from her, or my grandmother took me to Germany, for crying out loud. Like, I traveled as a kid. Now I would have to come back to the hood, right? But I could never, even as a kid, understand, how does this lady come from, somewhere else, has to learn the language, and always had money. It just seemed that she always had money. Now, she wasn't rolling in the dough, right? But there was just something there as a kid that I was always very curious about, and in the interest of transparency, this is probably one of the biggest sources of my own anxiety, is finances. I didn't even grow all that you described just now, Jasmine. I don't even have a concept of that, because we grew up on public assistance. People didn't own homes and cars and go to college. And like, that wasn't language that I heard as a kid. And I'll never forget, and I'm not trying to brag, but just to make a point. Not too long ago, I purchased a vehicle. At the time was my dream vehicle. It still is. It's paid off. That's a big whoop whoop. But I remember when I purchased this car, feeling guilty. Like, it took weeks, guys, for me to get accustomed to this car, because I had to fight the little girls from the Bronx don't drive that. Or, and I like to be transparent and keep it honest. As a woman of color, when people see me driving that car, I still get stared at, or people roll their eyes. Like, that's all feeding into our narrative around money. So I'm hoping that our conversation tonight really raises consciousness, for our listeners and even for us, and hopefully developing and strengthening our mindset, to use your language, Jasmine, around money.
Yeah, even to put a point to that, Letitia, it's not even a socioeconomic thing. And I think it goes back into what Jasmine, you just spoke about, your dad's generation. It's a generational thing from my standpoint, because even I was under the, it was just me and my mom growing up, but we figured out how to make things work, and we did have a car, we did own a home. But at the same time, when I'd go out and purchase something, or we would purchase something, I would feel hesitant, because I was afraid of what my next door neighbor was going to say, because they had that scarcity mindset, and my whole neighborhood had it. And then when you went out and you got some, so I was the spoiled, whatchamacallit, I can't think of only child. So, the only child comes with this weird stigma that, you get too much, you have too much. And it's not that at all, but it comes from that generational thing. And that's a big thing that you overcame. It's great that you recognized it too, because it's not an easy leap.
And Fred, I love that. I'm sorry, Jazz.
No, I was just going to say, to piggyback off Fred, that's a good point too, because a lot of other people's insecurities impact our worth and our relationship with money. So definitely. That's a good point too.
Yeah. And Fred, you made me think about how, even though I grew up in poverty and my parents were on public assistance, my grandparents paid my tuition so that I could go to Catholic school. And that brought a whole other thing, right? Like, who do you think you are with your little pressed uniform and your little cross, and I'm walking to the bus, right? And being harassed because even in that environment, I was seen as, to your point, Fred, like almost spoiled, right? Like, how do you get to go to Catholic school, private school, while we're not? And my mom, even though we did grow up that way, was a stickler about washing our clothes, pressing our clothes, looking clean and presentable, and all of that, right? But it's that underlying, it's that you don't deserve that, right? Because of where you come. How dare you be in private school? So it's so multi-layered.
It is. It can come from so many angles. And I think Aaron, hit that, earlier, like I'm more reflective and I realize a lot of things now that I'm getting older, that sometimes, like, Fred pointed, it's not always social economic. It can become from a lot of different things. And we don't realize how sometimes a comment can really impact somebody else and how they view things, and they can become, critical of themselves because you're just doing what you're supposed to do.
Right. And it goes.
I had cousins that, like y'all said, if I came to the house, to my grandmother's house with McDonald's, they're looking at me crazy. Like, I mean, I ain't doing nothing. I just bring my mom just fed me. It's what I wanted, because I was looked at as that spoiled child, even though I wasn't an only child. I was the baby. With my mom was a single mother too, and
Now, sidebar, I have met your mama, and I see how she is about her baby. So
yes,
you might have been a little spoiled, just a little bit.
Out of love.
Yes, always.
Us being teachers, we're naturally givers.
Mm-hmm.
And then if you come from a family of teachers, you're really givers. And a family of my family is basically firemen, nurses, and teachers. So we're just all give. And then here I come along, I have a little bit of entrepreneurial drive, but there's no education whatsoever about finances growing up and all. And I almost felt guilty about a lot of it. And I think as teachers, we have that natural guilt of, wait, there's a value to this. So I'd like to talk about your relationship with your clients, and maybe there's a pattern, maybe with other teachers that you've noticed or anybody else. Maybe we could talk a little bit about that.
Great question. So when it came to my clients, even when because some of my clients come to me about finances, but what I felt is a lot of them just didn't know their worth.
Mm-hmm.
They didn't feel deserving of certain things. And when I say that, that's even of their time, because I serve primarily Black women, and I just like to pour into people. And like you mentioned about the entrepreneur, like I have clients and even friends who want to do, they have a passion, they want to do it. And my first question is, why don't you? Well, I can't do it because of this. I have kids, I have a husband, I have this job, I have this. And I'm like, you're not even making yourself a priority. So if you don't make yourself a priority, and again, goes back to that mindset, if you don't believe that you deserve to have even a little taste of whatever it is, it's that purse you always wanted, that car that you wanted, not saying that you need to go in debt to get it, but work towards it. Even self-care, that's a big thing. A lot of people that I speak to, again, even just friends, they want to invest in themselves. That's the big thing. Invest in you, whether that's, pursuing your dreams or buying something that you want. Go get a massage, and they don't, because they're putting so many other people before them. And a lot of that, like I said, is that mindset. They don't feel worthy, that they deserve to be put first, or, their family's going. And I try to remind them. Now, one thing about me, I'm not a pusher, but I say, everybody's going to be all right if you're not there for a day. A lot of my clients, even myself at one point, we don't know how to ask for help. That was my biggest thing. Somebody just recently told me on a trip that I don't know how to, I'm a giver. Like you said, you just mentioned, I'm a giver, but I don't know how to receive. When somebody's willing to pour back into me, and it goes back to the mindset, even financially, like, becoming an entrepreneur is not easy. Leaving your job is not easy. So, people have offered, Jasmine, do you need anything? What do I say? I'm okay. I'm good. That's what we do. I'm okay. I'm good. But when somebody's willing, they're asking, I don't know how to receive it. And it goes, like I said, goes back to that mindset of feeling that I'm not worthy, or I'm going, for me, it was, I don't want to put anybody in a position that they're in a bad position financially. And my friend had to tell me, if somebody's asking you to help you, don't worry about that.
Right.
Just accept it. And
yeah, that's a great point. That's a great point. And I don't want to turn this into a Bible study, but I do believe in the principle of reaping and sowing, which is really a financial principle.
Mm-hmm.
And the way that I try to receive help, to your point, Jazz, because I have struggled with that. Now, if you ask me if I need something now, I will say yes if I need it. But how I try to break that cycle and that mindset for myself and share with others is that as givers, the things that we give, advice, time, money, talents, whatever, those are seeds that we're sowing,
mm-hmm.
right? So we are putting seeds in the ground when we serve our community, when we go to work every day and teach children. Those are seeds that we're depositing, right? And so when someone asks, hey, you need something, or wants to bless me, I now see it as me harvesting the things that I've sown. And even if I didn't sow anything into Jasmine, I may have sown something into Aaron, but it doesn't matter because I'm harvesting what I've sown. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I think it makes great sense. And the one thing that, as you're saying that, and I don't want to downgrade any other professions, but boy, oh boy, if we are constantly doing that, we're constantly sowing that, right, with the students that we have. And I loved how you mentioned, Jasmine, about pouring it into people. Like, that's what we do. Like, so we're doing it nonstop. It's like a constant energy generation that we need. And that's what I was going to ask you. In your book, Jasmine, do you go into the steps? Are they baby steps that allow you to move from that mindset into that next mindset? Obviously, it can't be a big leap because then nobody would be doing it probably. But do you help them with that?
Yes, I'm glad you brought that up. Actually, in my book, so how I wrote my book, and I'm proud because I did it, but I actually wrote this in a weekend. Yeah, I told myself I was gonna write this book, and that's one thing about me. When I say I'm gonna do something, I'm gonna do it. But I wrote this book, and actually, the book that I intended to write, I couldn't. I was stuck, and so, I prayed about it, and God said, share your story. But in my book is my story, the one that I shared earlier about me going through that time period in my life. But I also, I have different points in here where I have reflections. So I reflect based on what I went through during that time. And then, because I'm a firm believer about having conversations. I love conversations, just talking like we're doing now. And then I have a section called Points to Ponder. And these are just further questions to have conversations with, especially parents having these conversations with their children, because we have to be the ones who shift this for our families. And then I also have conversation starters. Sorry, my dog was in here and she was trying to get out, so my daughter had to come let her out.
We have many guests.
We love them.
Yes, we love
our furry
furry guests.
Coming up,
Don't
I'm
you
like,
worry.
here. But so I want them to be reflective, not just to share my story, but be reflective. And actually, I have gotten a lot of positive feedback about the questions, about just making them think, because they say people who read it, they're like, I never thought about that. And then, like I said, it's and I do provide like 1 point application. So where I actually give them steps to do certain things, like
Gotcha.
5 ways to save money, different types of savings accounts. And so it's a mix of me, like I said, sharing my story, and then taking it from there, and I'm a firm believer about starting where you are, which is one of the first steps that I believe is the first step of really identifying what is your relationship with money. You have to start with where you are. And even with that was a big pivotal point. And I think I shared it in the book, was when I got to the point where I was sick and tired of being sick and tired. I was getting tired of the bill collectors calling me. And this was in my transition, from my situation. I wasn't in Indianapolis anymore. I had moved to Georgia. And it got to the point, my best friend, she would say, well, go take the test again. I'm like, no, I don't want to take another test. Don't ask me about another test. I really got discouraged and I didn't want to pursue it. But once I sat down, I remember it was in July 2011. I sat down, got all the bills, everything that I could find, like all the bill collectors. And I said, okay, let me see where I am, know where I stand. And I just looked at it and made a phone call, started the process. And then from there, I got enrolled into a master's program to get my certification. So once I started putting forth the effort to change my life, that's when things happened, because a month later, I got a teaching job.
Oh.
When I'm sitting here thinking about the new year, right? A lot of people are in this thought of, okay, I want some change. Like it's time. They know. I mean, Jasmine, you've in several of your stories, you've been telling us about your journey, your experience. I keep hearing you had little hints, you had that little voice, you had that little push, even though maybe you didn't take the step every time it was there. So, as teachers, our time is just as valuable as everyone else, but it seems to be not enough each day, right? And so your book sounds like a great resource. Are there some other things, podcasts, books, anything like that you would recommend? Our listeners love resources that someone who's hearing your story and thinking, yeah, it's time for me to have either a better relationship with my finances, or I want to step more into some kind of whatever thing that they want next. Where can they go? What other places besides you, obviously, that they can tap into?
I love YouTube. YouTube, some people like Instagram, TikTok. Mine is YouTube. And first and foremost, depending on where a person is in their life, if you need that motivation, and sometimes before we can even look into the finances, we got to get motivated and get some inspiration. So, even during those times, I found myself listening to inspirational videos, like motivating me to get started. So I type in inspirational videos. One of my favorite motivational speaker is Les Brown. He just has that voice, just like, okay, I'm going to change the world today. And so that's one of my resources. And then, even like I said, YouTube, I would look up things like habits of wealthy people. What do wealthy people do? And they have videos where they'll give 10 habits that the wealthy people do that the poor people don't. So those are the things that I would look up. And even one thing that I would stress to people is evaluate your circle. If, there's a saying, I'm gonna probably butcher it, but if you're the smartest, the best person in your circle, it's time to change your circle. And I had to realize that, with my mind, and it goes back to your mindset, because if I'm comfortable being around people who are in the same position as me, I'm never going to grow. And so that was a big thing. And even from there, getting resources with that. I remember when I first got acclimated in Georgia, I wanted to be around people who were similar to me. I was a single mother, and I got on Google, typed up single moms programs, and I got connected. I was living in Warner Robins, Georgia at the time, and I got connected with a platform. It was called Project Single Moms, a nonprofit organization. They were, housed in Atlanta. Got connected with them. I started serving. I didn't have a job, so I was able to pour back into them. Moved up here. We started doing things here. And I eventually ended up taking over the organization and rebranding it. And, just that helped me become learn some skills and being a better effective leader and all that stuff. So just get on Google, whatever you think you need at that moment. Google, YouTube. A book that I would recommend for me, anything Napoleon Hill. I love Napoleon Hill. I haven't finished Think and Grow Rich yet, but I'm a firm believer, because I've heard a lot of other people that say the same thing. They'll start it, but they finish it later. You have to be in a certain type of mindset, I feel, to really appreciate that book. But one of my favorite books of Napoleon Hill is Outwitting the Devil. And I've put a lot of people onto that book and they are blown away, which is, and it again speaks to your mindset, how you think, what you think you are, you become. And so, and another thing that one of my other resources that I'm big on right now is manifesting, Neville Goddard. And just, because sometimes when we're going through stuff with our finances, we're not thinking about being successful or
That's right.
getting like I said before, multi-millionaire. But by the time I'm 40, we don't think big. We're just trying to make it. Mm-hmm. And so I'm at a point in my life, I know that I'm able to be successful, but I'm even I need to learn how to think big. And that's another book, The Magic of Thinking Big, Power of Positive Thinking. So I love self-help books. So again, it just really depends on where you are. If you're struggling with your mindset and it's just your thinking.
Yeah, I like your list because it's a good scale of things, no matter where someone is right now on it, of how much they need that to be engulfing in every day, or is it just is it a friendly reminder right now, right? Some of those things you're talking about, even just listening to something that's inspiring, it's just a little thing. And if you do things like that every week or every day, you never know what doors might open up because of that. So I'm curious to hear, I love this part of our conversation. Is there a teacher, a mentor, a coach, or someone growing up that inspired you that you would love to share their story?
So I actually have two people, coaches. One of them is on here. Letitia, little story. I met her at a conference and she was talking about self-care. And shocking. That was something at the huh?
I said shocking.
But it was something at that time that I took for granted because like I said, I'm a single mother with 2 kids. Again, that mindset, I can't afford to get a massage or I can't do that. And she touched me so much that I went to her, and I don't go to people. Like, I'm shy. I'm coming out of those being shy. But I was, I'm like, I want to connect with her. She's a good person. I loved her energy, and we've been connected ever since. She's just everything. Y'all know that she's just everything. So I appreciate her. She's very supportive in everything. And she actually, I don't know if she knows this, but she helped motivate me to take that leap out of teaching. So hearing her story, and yes, let's give her a round of applause.
No fair. I did not see that coming.
You need to over there like Letitia, you need to hear this and absorb this. You need to take this.
You need to receive this.
Come on.
Yes.
Right.
Receive it. That's the word.
It's coming.
Receive your flowers.
But
so she's definitely been one of those people that has inspired me. And my other one is a coach that I had on set of the pandemic. Her name is LaShawna West. She's a business therapist. And we, again, she's a single mother and we have similar stories, but she saw something in me that I didn't realize, that I needed to heal myself really before I take that leap into entrepreneurship. And honestly, that's a whole nother segment I could talk hours about. But even when it comes to our relationship with money, there's oftentimes something we need to heal from. And I think we as people don't realize how important healing is. And I was holding myself back because there were different things that, again, and it has nothing to do with my job, my money, is internal that I needed to heal from. And so having those conversations with her helped heal me. And I feel like healing's an ongoing journey. Because once we feel like we heal from something else may come up. But
That's sure.
That's the truth.
exactly.
That's the truth.
So it's ongoing, but I have evolved into a better person. And I'll say this, my business, when I first started working with her, I was a financial coach. I was actually Jasmine Hall, the success and wealth coach. Now I'm the worth coach. I have evolved so many times in my business because I'm learning more about myself and doing the work. I'm doing the healing. I'm pouring into me, that I feel like now I'm in a place that I can create and build a brand, build a business that's going to serve the people that I need to serve.
Yeah, that's amazing. And I think everyone, whether an educator or not, we all need to remind ourselves that we are worthy. And once we realize we are worthy, then we can start establishing our worth. So that's a very powerful term that you've picked. Very, very befitting of everything you've talked about. So Jasmine, if it's okay, we're going to you might have saw some of us making notes or things as we're talking. When we hear something that strikes a chord, we like to kind of make a note of it or make some connections. So we're going to go around and just talk about things that in our conversation that struck us. And then you as our guest kind of get the last word. Does that sound good?
Sounds good. I love that.
Okay. Pete, I'm going to have you go first.
Yeah. So Jasmine, your story, your message, your strength is so inspiring. So thank you so much for sharing and coming on tonight. Let's see. I wrote down, I usually get something from the beginning. It's like the overall umbrella topic, main idea. And I had our relationship with money is in direct correlation to our upbringing. And then I tacked on what you said later. You have to start where you are from that point. And then I'm gonna do one with Letitia. I love this goes out to the teachers that are dreading going back to school tomorrow. Letitia said about our students, they have so much to give us. I think we need to be reminded of that sometimes. So lots of great stuff tonight. Thank you so much.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
All right, Letitia.
That was great. Whew, I'm still speechless, which doesn't often happen.
Let me fan you off. Okay.
You guys are awesome. I think for me tonight, Jasmine, your message is what you're living. So I can't really, to be honest, pinpoint one thing in particular, but your courage, your vulnerability, sharing your story. But you said over and over this idea of mindset. And that's what I'm hoping that we shift tonight for our teachers, our listeners, right? Shifting our mindset about money, about our worth as educators, right? The school system is not the only way to make money. Now, I'm not saying go and make it rain, but there are passions and things in you, right? Like to empower. And I think what you've described and the resources that you shared, and the steps is all about a growth mindset. That even in our financial thinking, we're fixed. Oh, no one's an entrepreneur in my family, or my parents were scarce and don't want to release the money. Whatever the belief is, the growth mindset is what will set us free. And I will end with self-care because you mentioned it. But something that people don't realize is that financial self-care is a pillar.
Yes.
So just like we do affirmations to build ourselves up, financial affirmations, I will be a millionaire. My business will be successful.
Got to put it out there.
Yeah,
Yes.
you have to put
Make it
growth
into existence.
a manifestation. It happens. That car that I was able to get didn't happen. It started with a thought. And then I executed the plan, and now Tina is awesome. That's my car's name. After Tina Turner. But anyways.
I was like, oh no, she's lost it. Our guest is named Jasmine.
I know.
No, my car's name is Tina, after Tina Turner. And
That's
when
awesome.
I have moments
I love
when
it.
I'm by myself, I put on her greatest hit.
It's actually a good
Love
album.
it.
Okay.
That's-
Super sidebar. Okay, thank you, dear.
Fabulous. And sometimes when you all are sharing your thoughts, I'm like, ooh, it makes so many connections to things. I had written down something, Letitia, you were talking about. I mean, Jasmine really is kind of modeling this idea of, what is it you want out of life? How do you want to live your best life? And I had written down something. I had seen Jasmine, some quote or something where you'd said, life is truly how we make it. And I feel like, Letitia, that's kind of like the subtitle of everything you just said so beautifully. So that was great. How about you, Fred?
Yeah, so you all hit on some great ones, Pete. You nailed it right from the beginning.
Mhm.
Matter of fact, I think we were looking at each other, even though we can't see each other, it's writing the same thing down at the same time. And
Always.
Letitia bringing it together. There's two things though, as you just said that, Aaron. If anybody's listening to this, not if anybody, but when teachers are listening to this, and sometimes they may be thinking, well, I'm not an entrepreneur. I'm not thinking about being an entrepreneur. I'm not thinking. This is also things you could be doing for your students. Right, providing that opportunity to rid that scarcity mindset. That's the time, right? Middle school, high school, like that's when, when you turn 50, it's awfully entrenched. So you have to really kind of work at that. But I love that mindset awareness. So I think since you hit on some of the key ones, the only one that it wasn't something you said directly, you definitely spoke about it, and I kind of paraphrase it as circulate your circle. And I think that's really, really a key thing. I think when you, not so much you have to shed them, but, welcome in new concepts, ideas, conversations, and so on. And don't be afraid to do that and kind of have those new talks. And if you have to bring some new folks into that circle, do it so. But I like what you said about that. And just to kind of put a period and exclamation point to it, man, you have a tremendous amount of courage. I admire your courage and how many you've done a lot of pivots, I was just thinking, how do you move from Indianapolis to Georgia? That alone just blew my mind, but that's good stuff.
Yes.
Well, you can get a U-Haul, you can get a plane, a train.
Pack up a 2000 Kia Spectra with your stuff and drive on down.
There you go. There you go. Well, Fred, I love that you brought up the student factor, because that's, really, Jasmine, everything we talked about for teachers can follow these guidelines. I'm thinking about students. And most importantly, the thing I kept writing down was we just need to have conversations with ourselves about what our worth is, what our goals are, with the students, right? Can you think of any time you were in school or that you see kids at your school now developmentally appropriate talking about what they want out of life, like what kind of life they want to live, and connecting that to finances? We're not talking about that. And so I think if we start having more conversations, and you even said, Jasmine, you love conversations, so it makes sense. We need to be having conversations. We need to stop not talking about finances and our relationship with it, and what we want and what is our worth. So Jasmine, you as our guest kind of get the last word. Is there anything in some of the stuff we were saying, or any last little piece of wisdom that you want to leave us with?
Yes. So one thing I want to say, that this whole podcast was amazing. It all happened in divine timing, because one thing about me, I am learning to be more vulnerable. Because I would not like me telling my story. Nobody needs to know that. But even now, the start of this year, I wasn't in a place that I thought I would be, like, mentally. So hearing all what you guys share with me, that really poured into me, and just lets me know that I need, that inspiration that I needed. So thank you guys for that. Couple things that you guys mentioned, especially for teachers. I feel like we so focus on the job, that we forget about our dreams and who we are and the goals and everything, that the talents, the skills that we had before we started teaching. So never give up on your dreams. Find whatever it is, even if it's a hobby, do it. Invest in yourself, invest your time, even if a little bit. Start with maybe 15 minutes, whatever, just little by little each day. And I can't remember who said it, but our kids are watching. If we have children, they're seeing the same things that we're doing. So if we have a scarcity mindset, and that's one of the things that changed for me. I don't want my kids to feel that way, that they have to hold on to their money, be so scared to spend money. I didn't want my kids to see that. My daughter, she definitely doesn't have that issue. My son, I saw that in him, just some of our conversations, he would be scared to ask me for things. And I'm like, don't do that. Not that I don't want him to be like that. So be mindful of that. And the last thing I want to say is a quote. One of my favorite quotes by Jim Rohn is, work harder on yourself than you do your job. And I remember when I heard that, I was watching YouTube at work. It was like 6 o'clock, 7 o'clock at night. I was still at work grading papers. And that changed my life and my mindset too, because I would give so much of my time, my energy at that job that I wasn't pouring back into myself. So especially for my teachers and all the listeners, again, work harder on yourself than you do your job.
Ooh, what a perfect way to end this conversation. Oh my gosh. Jasmine, if our listeners want to reach out to you, how can they connect?
Definitely connect with me on, I'm working on rebranding some of my social medias, but you can go ahead and follow me. There's more to come at The Worth Coach, THE Worth Coach. Instagram, I started a TikTok. My goal this year is to start a YouTube channel. I'm working on that. That's my biggest goal. I want to move and shift to YouTube. So yeah, everything. And I'm also changing up my website. But everything, stay connected at The Worth Coach on TikTok, Instagram, and Facebook.
Great. And Pete, where can our listeners find us?
I mean, what a great way to kick off our new season and to start off the new year. So please, wherever you're listening to us, leave us a review. Our website, teacherpeprally.com, Instagram, YouTube, and our Facebook group.
Great. Well, here we go. New year. We've got this. We've got our financial planner that's giving us great advice. We're already establishing what we want our worth to be. So I can't wait for the continued conversations. And Jasmine, thank you so much for being here.
Thank you guys for having me. I really enjoyed it.
It was great meeting you.
Nice meeting you.